So let's go and get started. My name is Debbie Stein. I'm the founder and chief instructor for the Science and Technology Policy Academy. This is a webinar that we're having with Kathryn Troutman, who heads up an organization that helps people develop federal resumes and provides career counseling of all kinds. I will let her talk more about what it is that she does and her products, but she's somebody that was actually recommended to me by another student as having like great and useful books and so forth that would help all of you. So we're very grateful that she's here today and can hopefully answer all the questions you have about seeking a job in the federal government. So let me go ahead and turn it over to Kathryn.
Good evening, everybody. Hello, I'm Kathryn Troutman. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm so glad to see your majors and what you're interested in. I'm thrilled to see all of your interest in federal jobs. I'm the author of this book here, the Student Federal Career Guide. You see it right there on the screen. I wrote the first book 10 years ago, or I don't know when, but the main goal of writing that book is to help recent graduates figure out how to write the resume that emphasizes education over work experience. Because if you have a new degree, a new PhD or master's, you want to emphasize education. Now, if you go to USA Jobs and you look at their builder for resumes, it starts out with work experience. It's awful. So it's not good for you. You need to use a resume that's an upload because you need to have education first. So I'm going to be showing you resumes from the book. Also, I wrote the very first book ever on federal resume writing in '96 when the government first went with a resume. This is my book, the Federal Resume Guidebook. That book made me an expert in what I do. '96, a long time ago. It's in every library and it's used in agencies. And I have a format that I recommend people to use for federal. And I know that's a lot of what you're interested in this class. So I'm going to be talking about the format and the best way to present your information. In my presentation tonight, I'm going to talk about the resume format. I'm going to go to USA Jobs and find some science-related announcements. I'm going to show you how to find the keywords for you to emphasize in your resume. And I'm also going to go to the President Biden webpage. In case you're interested in applying for a political appointee position, I want to show it to you because, you know, he's very interested in climate change and science. You could always put your resume and cover letter in there and just, you know, see if they're interested in you. There's no job descriptions. There's no keywords, no positions announced. It's just put your resume in there and see what happens. And it will be a 4-year job, you know? So I'll show that to you also. You might want to just do it. I don't know. I think you should. So there. I'll also show you USA Jobs and how to search for jobs. So thank you for all of your backgrounds here. This is really good. You're all so expert. Okay, so let's start with the book here. I'm not giving everybody a book. You'll have to order it if you want one. I think you should. I'm going to give you a document, but not the whole book. So this book is called a 10-step book, and it talks about how to write accomplishments and federal student hiring, different fellowships and programs, how to search for jobs, the best federal resume format. Everything you want to know is in this book. And these are the samples that are here in the book. Greg is an IT person. Savannah is entry-level consumer safety officer with FDA. Mark Thompson is admin going for State Department. Sadie is public health internship. So there are all kinds of different samples in the book. And Amada is actually in the government. Her resume is in the book and she's actually in the government. I wanted you to see what it would look like. She's already hired. In fact, she's a GS-12. Actually, she's a 13. She already got a promotion. And then here's a budget person. Intel, cyber, Ann Crane is health insurance specialist. So all the samples are a little bit different and they have different emphasis. So I'll be showing you some of those later. And one of the big things that I want to show you, let me go to one sample here. Hold on. Ann Crane 127. One of the most important things you can learn from me in this program is the resume. So here's Ann Crane. This is a federal resume. And we start out with the announcement number, and then we have her statistical skills, because this job, health insurance specialist, involves a lot of statistics. And we have a summary of her research analysis and then her healthcare experience. And then page 2 is her PhD that she's working on. She doesn't have it yet, but there it is. And then her other education. Then we have her coursework typed out in the resume, as all the announcements tell you to upload your transcripts. And I know you're doing that, but the transcripts don't get sent forward to managers, so they don't really see your classes. So you need to type them in the resume so that they'll see what your classes are. And then these are all of her papers and projects and research that she did in her 1 year of PhD work and her master's. So you need to have descriptions of your projects in here.
So Kathryn, actually we have a question that's quite relevant to something you just covered, which is, it's from Matt. And he says, I found job postings for recent graduates that required you have already received your degree. If I know I'll be defending my PhD in May, can I apply for these? It seems like the system will reject the application because I have not received my degree. Thanks.
Well, recent grads are supposed to be for people who have already graduated, but May is not very far away. You should go ahead and apply. I don't know if you'll get rejected or not. You could also write to the HR person that's on the announcement. There's usually a name of a person and a phone number or email, and tell them that you want to apply and your background matches perfectly, and you'll have your PhD in May, and ask if you can go ahead and apply. That's what I would do. But recent grads are supposed to be already graduated. But I totally understand your situation. Now, make sure your resume looks something like this. You know, I coach PhD people all the time. And one thing that I see on the resumes that's shocking to me is, and you can look at your resume right now if you have it in front of you, look and see if the title of your dissertation is written in the resume, and look and see if the description of your PhD work is written, described, the thesis of your PhD, the time you put into it, month and year, the project work, write it. And then also if you did a postdoc, describe the postdoc, the title of it, write it up. Because the CVs are so skimpy. They just write one-liners, you know, the PhD and where you're from, skip the PhD dissertation title. I can't even believe that. And then you have one-liner for research this and instructor this. Federal resumes, as you can see from this sample right here, are 4 or 5 pages long, and they want to see the skills that you have so that they can match you to the announcement. So, okay, we're still on the projects, okay? Those are still projects then.
Yeah. So sorry, Kathryn, before you go on, we have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is from Corey. How far back should we go for relevant coursework? I finishing my PhD MPH, but have classes from BS/MS that were 5 to 10 years ago.
Well, the coursework might be relevant. I think you better type it out. I mean, if you look at the announcements, a lot of them say that you need to have coursework in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're very specific with their coursework. I don't think it matters if it's 5 or 10 years ago. If they demand certain courses and you don't have it in the resume, yeah, include it, yes.
Okay, so we have another question. If I'm applying for a job that has nothing to do with the PhD, should we still include information about our PhD research?
Well, you better write in the chat box, what job title are you looking for? And what is your PhD? And I need a little more information to answer that question. So I need to know. That sounds like a career change, a really serious one. What are you trying to do? You're not going to use your PhD? Oh, no.
Okay. Yeah. So, Kathryn, why don't you go ahead while hopefully Aaron.
Okay. All right. You write the answer in the box. Okay. That's fine.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. We have one more question.
Okay.
This is from Tara. Some applications require a 2 to 3 page limit of CV resume. Mine is already 3 pages long. If we add coursework, it will be longer. Is there a priority list of things that should be in the CV that can help us decide what to keep, remove?
Well, most federal agencies don't have a limit on the length. If you're applying to a fellowship or something that says there's a length of 3 pages, then I would still put the courses in if it's federal, because the managers don't get your transcript. How are they going to know what courses you took? You might have very, very specialized courses and clinics and labs that how would the manager know? So, I mean, what I would do is put the courses in and then maybe cut back on some of the employment stuff, really. But federal jobs don't usually give you a limit. Most of our resumes are 5 pages.
Okay, so we're going back to Erin. She was the one who asked the previous question.
Yeah.
And she said, she's applying for director of programming and training in the Peace Corps. Her PhD is in marine science. I already have job experience with project management internationally and was a Peace Corps volunteer.
Okay, that's a big career change then. Okay, leave the dissertation out because it's marine and it's not relevant to Peace Corps and programming. So leave out the dissertation. Peace Corps is very interested in education though, and your senior level work. So I don't know that. Yeah, leave out the marine is not relevant. Marine's not relevant, so leave it out. PhD, of course, is relevant for everything, so you leave that. And then emphasize any projects or research you did that would have to do with programming and instruction and curriculum design and training, that kind of work could be used for Peace Corps. And then make sure your Peace Corps job is really clear on there, because Peace Corps likes to hire former Peace Corps people, which you know that probably.
So we'll just do one more thing and then we'll let you keep on going. Somebody has asked about having a sample resume for reference. Is that what you have like in your books and so forth? Sample resumes?
What kind of resume for reference did you say?
Just a sample. In other words, they're writing their own federal resume and they want to have something to look at as an example that they're coming from.
That's why I wrote the book, so that you could see samples of resumes and see how other people write them. This one here is for Philip. And the big thing about this resume is that we have licenses at the top and computer skills. And then we've got his master's degree. And then we have the descriptions of his projects, his capstone projects and his projects that he worked on in his courses. And if you look at a private sector resume or even a CV, you're not going to see that. They don't describe projects in a CV. They're not there at all. But the HR people in government want to see what you've been doing throughout your education. What are your projects? What are your skills? Teamwork, presentations, writing. They want to see the skills. So that's why this is here. This young man started out to get a GS9 position, and he got 3 interviews, 3 offers with NASA, with Corps of Engineers. He's an engineering person with this resume right here. So they just want to see a little bit more about your background. CVs are just one-liners. So this is not a one-liner resume. This is little paragraphs with a description of the projects. So I would like to know, you can type in the chat box, do you have any descriptions of your papers or projects in your resume now? You can just say yes, no, but I hope that you will consider adding more to the resume and make it a little bit more detailed. When Pathways internships first came out, in the government, which is 10 years ago now, 2012. I called up an HR person at NASA and I said, how's it going? How's it going with the pathways? Because NASA was the first agency to post pathways positions. And she said, what we do is we send all the resumes to the manager that we receive for pathways, and we let the managers choose who they want to interview. And the manager just passed by me in the hallway and he said, how in the world am I supposed to decide who to interview when the resumes are only 1 or 2 pages long? I don't even have anything to go on here because they're not long enough. Wow. I said, well, you need my book because these resumes are not too short. They give managers the content that they need to see to make a decision on who they want to meet. So I'll scroll through here and show you a couple more while you answer questions. Look at all the projects for this guy. He was busy in his bachelor's degree. And then there's his work experience, his internships. He had experience and education. Go ahead, you can ask me some more questions. I see there's 3 more there.
Yeah, so I should say, just so you know, Kevin, there's sort of like a chat box and there's a Q&A box. So I'm primarily asking the questions from the Q&A box. That's where I've asked people to put things. So okay. Here's one from Aaron. Do you have a recommended page maximum for federal resumes?
I think 3 or 4 is good for a new graduate. Mid-career professional people, I recommend 5. For senior executive service people, I recommend 5. For the presidential appointee resumes, 2 or 3. So maybe 3 pages would be good. That's a good length for a new grad.
Okay. Maybe we're caught up on the questions. Why don't you, sorry, as I say that, here comes another question. So this is from Christina. So it sounds like extracurricular projects like planning a conference would also be appropriate to describe like a research project on a resume. Would it be better to frame these as educational experience or work experience?
Probably education, because the conference only lasted probably a month or 2 in terms of activities. I would probably write it up under education as an activity. And then I would write some details about it, what the name of the conference, your role for the conference, the number of attendees, the agenda you may have helped to plan, invited experts, the venue, give it like 5 sentences so that they can see that you're very good at, specialty agency. Now, if you worked on it for a whole year, you could make it a job block if you wanted. But if it's probably a 2-month project, I'd put it under education.
Okay. So here's a question from Corey. I see most of these are reverse chronological order. I have a gap between degrees where I was working. Should I keep everything in chronological order or split education and work?
First, you have education, and don't worry about the break in the dates. Ignore it. Just write the education and then do your work history with the dates and the places and everything. And don't worry about gaps at all. Just write it.
Okay. Yeah, so why don't we look at another like resume or whatever else you would like to cover next.
Okay, I'll show you Sean's resume. There's a story behind his resume. He's a military guy. He's got a master's and a bachelor's. And then here are his projects from school. He had a lot of project work. We put them all in. And then before that, he had a break between military and school, and he worked for his parents' sushi restaurant for a long time, 8 years. And he also was trying to become a cartoonist for 8 years. So there's another big, long story there to become a cartoonist. And then before that, he was in the military. So his resume is really, a little complicated. But because he was trying to get a job as a budget analyst, his degree was in an MBA. And we have the courses right here in accounting and finance. He had 3 job offers from this resume here. And he accepted all three because he couldn't decide which one and which one would really, be the best. One offer was a GS7 in South Dakota, actually with US Space Force. That would have been interesting. Another was GS9, Department of Labor in DC, and another one was somewhere in Florida, also a GS9. He ended up taking the DOL job. So if you're lucky enough to get more than one offer, you can accept them and then just see what comes up and what else they offer you, and then decide which one you want to take. I couldn't believe he had the nerve to accept 3 jobs. It worked out fine. I did coach him on the South Dakota letter, though. I said, you need to be really nice to them and say, I'm really sorry, but I got a better offer. I felt kind of sorry for them because he accepted it. So the resume worked.
So, Kathryn, another question that was sort of, oh, well, first we have a question on what you just said before I add something else. It says, sorry, I don't understand how you're allowed to accept more than one offer.
You're allowed.
Mhm.
They don't tell you not to. If they offer you, see, you never can tell when you get the original offer if it's going to actually happen, if the security is going to go through, security clearance and negotiations on the salary. You definitely can.
Yeah, so we're sort of at the well, let me do the other question again first. Okay, so I'm this person, Dan, is a current 8-year Fed looking to switch departments roles. I had several projects in grad school before that. Some led to papers, some not. Great GPA, but no degree. Split between work and education.
That'd be kind of hard for me to tell without seeing the resume.
Mhm.
Maybe the federal employment would be first, since you were a former Fed and you have reinstatement.
Well, he's a current Fed actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
when
so
did
he's a current Fed, yeah.
I
And
see.
he's looking to switch to like another agency.
What is your degree? Is it PhD and something or master's or what?
I believe he has a master's. So Dan, do you want to, yeah, no PhD, no master's.
Put the employment first.
Okay.
Employment first.
Okay, so the other common question we have, like I said, we're kind of at the halfway point here, is about keywords to include in the resume. So is that something you could talk about
Yep.
for like specific jobs?
I think I'll go to an announcement first, and then we'll talk about keywords.
Okay.
So let's do that first, and then so I'll just find an announcement. Let's just type in climate change and see what comes up. And we'll look for a GS11. We'll public announcement, and we'll go to a GS11, which is what you would apply for if you had a PhD. And I'm just going to do this to show you keywords first, okay? So I don't know what announcements we found. Oh, this sounds kind of good. Foreign Service Environmental Officer. Let's look at this.
Yeah, so yeah, Kathryn, we're just seeing the general USA Jobs
Oh,
page,
you are?
not saying your search that you did.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know if you need to go further down or if you're on a different page.
Can you see USA Jobs now?
Yes, now, and it says Foreign Service Environmental Officer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So my search was climate change, open to the public, and GS11. That was my search. And 6 jobs came up. And the first one here is Environmental Service Environment Officer. So I just want to look at this to show you keywords right now. So here's the announcement. It's open to the public. The range in the salary, starting range is 56,000 to 111. And you can negotiate that depending on your background. DC has a bunch of jobs, and so does various countries. So you're going to be a technical leader and expert in strategic planning exercises. All right, now, the keywords are not these words here. See the words under responsibilities? Those are not the keywords. The keywords are down here under, oh, there they are. You have to identify which area of science you're interested in. So whatever your area of science is, those are the words that would need to stand out, which they would with your PhD and your courses and everything. But then further, for the FS5, you would have to have one of these degrees plus 3 years of relevant professional experience, which includes 1 year overseas or diverse working environment. Both the advanced degree must be environmental. Now, your PhD can be equal to a year's worth of work, you know. Look, it says 3 years. So your PhD with all your courses, papers, projects, PhD could add up to 2 or 3 years right there. So then for the FS4, you have to show the master or the JD plus 1 environmental graduate degree plus 4 years of experience. That might be hard. 3 years overseas or diverse working. So it says, see that or? That means or. It's okay. And then look at this. Okay, here we go. Diverse experience includes living in a foreign country or tribe, working with disadvantaged people. So make sure those words are very clear in the resume. And that has to be experience for 1 year. And if you don't have that in the resume, you will not get best qualified. Must be clear. So this section right here, right there, qualifications, is the section you have to look at to really see whether you have the qualifications for the job and the language in the resume. Okay, then further, wait. Okay, there's another section. Oh, look at this. See, they tell you right here the courses they want. That's why you have to type your courses in your resume. Then how you be evaluated. Sometimes there's a section there that will tell you more keywords. The score will be anywhere from 70 to 100. I hope your score will be close to 100. Let's look at the questionnaire. I don't know if you've seen the questionnaire or not that goes along with these announcements, but let me show it to you. Preview vacancy questions. Here we go. Every announcement has a series of questions that they ask you. Oh, look. No specific questions for 4, no specific questions for 5, only for all grades. I'm looking for job related. Hold on. Oh, there they ask your field of study. Wow, a lot of you in this class here could apply to this job. Look at this. Wow. They cover the whole world. Okay, there it is again. You know, you could apply for this and just see what happens.
Yeah, so a couple of questions. So, you know, there's, we have some questions about the GS rating, but since we're talking about FS, which I presume means for foreign service, does that mean you have to, there's like an exam to be a foreign service officer? Does that mean that you have to pass that? Or what does FS mean versus GS?
Well, foreign service has just their own GS, their own, it's a pay grade. It's different than GS, but you saw the salary range, 60,000 to 111. So if you relate that to GS7 to the GS scale, it's about a GS9 to a 12. It's just that they have their own salary. Look at this here, how many years of experience. Oh my gosh, it's so detailed. So you have to answer this questionnaire and give yourself as much credit as you can. Oh my gosh, they want 5 references. Wow. This is an intense questionnaire. Just be patient.
Okay, so let me ask you a couple of questions. If GS11 it must be, is GS11, if GS11 is what you would apply for with a PhD, what
Yeah.
would you aim for with an MS?
A GS9.
Okay. And if they ask how many years of experience you have, how do you respond as a recent PhD with no non-academic experience?
I'd say 3 years. If your PhD took you 3 years to study and get your PhD done, I'd go 3 years.
Okay, and then just clarifying the length of time to get a degree equals work experience. If it takes me 5 to 6 years full-time to get my degree, does that mean I can add 5 to 6 years work experience?
Probably, but I don't think 40 hours a week, if it's 5 years. Doesn't it seem like more 25 hours a week because it's not full-time? I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, but you know, like for a PhD, it's pretty much a full-time.
Is it for 5 years?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead then.
Yes, I
40
think
hours.
everybody would
All
agree with
right,
me.
40 hours a week, 5 years, right?
Okay. That's probably more like 60 or 70. Okay, some more questions here. The Usajobs announcement for the fellowship I'm applying for lists 4 KSAs. Should I use these KSAs as subheadings in my resume to describe my previous work research experience?
Read it again once more.
Yeah, the Usajobs announcement for the fellowship I'm applying for lists 4 KSAs, and those are like knowledge something.
Yeah, right.
Should I use these KSAs as subheadings in my resume to describe my previous work research experience?
I don't think so. Read the announcement. I think probably they want those KSAs to be separate narratives on separate pieces of paper, and you might copy and paste them into the online form. But the instructions will tell you, they'll say, we want the KSAs to be separate narratives, or we want the KSAs to be blended into your resume. Look at the instructions to see. But either way, you're going to write a narrative about that knowledge, skill, and ability. They'll also tell you how many characters you should write, whether it's 500 or 1,000 or whatever characters for each KSA. Go back and look at the instructions, and they'll probably tell you where to put them.
Yeah, so if I could add, I have actually written KSAs myself when I applied for the Congressional Research Service, which is where I worked my first sort of official federal job. I had to write KSAs.
Right.
I probably wrote like maybe 25 pages or something. It was very extensive, the questions that they asked. There was a character limit though. So, and the character limit was very strict because it had to fit inside the box, right? And so if you exceeded that character limit, you would not do it. So so what I did at least is I put in an answer that fit the limit. And the longer document that I wrote, I put it in as an attachment. I don't know if they could consider it or not, but I think that's something important to consider.
You'll just have to read the announcement and see what they say.
Okay. So it says similarly, this is from Tara. Similarly, what is the grade for an MA? I think she means
GS9.
Yeah, it's taking 2 years to complete this degree. How many years of work experience should be listed for the MA, if any?
Well, you can apply for a GS9 job with just the master's or with the master's and 1 year specialized experience. I'm looking up GS9 positions now. And here's one for a life scientist with EPA. It's a GS7-9. So you could start this job either at the 7 or the 9 level. And let's see what it says for the 9 down here. They're hiring a lot of people. Wow. Okay, so again, keywords are not here under responsibilities. That's just the duties if you get the job. They're hiring 3 job titles for this announcement. And so for the 9, oh, there's KSAs right there. Oh, 7 of them. So for the 9, you need to have at least 1 year full-time equivalent experience to the 7 level, or 2 full years progressively higher graduate education leading to a degree, or a combination of education and experience. So probably you have combination of the degree plus school, college work in policy analysis, environmental issues. Put your course titles in there, and then look at this. So the way you cover these KSAs for this announcement is you don't write separate narratives here. This is just covered in the resume. So remember the Philip resume I showed you, the engineer resume? He had those little project details of this project and that project and that project. Just make sure you have a project that describes professional engineering or biological science methods, developmental assignments using involving conventional features and problems and projects.
Okay.
You have to write a story about some science project.
So here's another question. Is there ever a good reason to use bullet points, or should I always use narratives to describe my experience?
For federal, I recommend the narratives. Bullets are just, they're popular for private sector, and they're usually just like 8 words, a bullet and 8 words. For these KSAs, they want a little story like that, the Philip sample, a little bit more content. Now, data gathering, you need to give an example of a time when you gathered data and the software you used to gather it and what data were you gathering and solve the problem. They're telling you a lot here. Now, let's see, wait a minute, hold on, there's another section. They're telling you about courses they want to see, put them in the resume. That's why I tell you to type your courses in the resume, because they're very interested in that. Okay, how you be evaluated? I never know what's here. No, there's nothing. Let's see the questionnaire for this announcement. It must be a doozy. Hold on, it's coming. Oh, they're using the same system. Let's see how if it's as bad as the last one. Let's look at the 9. We'll look at the, oh, look at that. Wait a minute. Oh, this is for the 9 here. So they have it all broken out by the type of job that you're applying for. This one here is environmental engineer, the qualifications that you've got. And just whatever works for you is what you need to check off. This one here, bachelor's degree in the field plus 1 year of experience. That was what Philip had.
Yes, it does.
I would really love to know, Deborah, from the class people, how many of you have filled out an announcement and a questionnaire before? If they could just type yes, no, yes, no. I'd like to know how many people have seen the questionnaire before and filled one out.
Yeah, so put it in the chat, that question.
Yeah, put it in the chat.
Answer.
Yes, no, yes, no. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so the questionnaire just kind of added, so it tends to be a little bit easier in the sense that it's just a check box most of the time. But the key is that it's really, I think it really influences your ranking, right? So that, you know, like if you don't click the top box, then you might not be considered qualified for the position relative to other candidates. So it's very important that you, that you use the maximum of your ability to qualify for that, because otherwise you won't make it through that initial screening.
Yeah, the resume might be great. You've got all the information in there, follow the format. But for instance, look at this one here. What is the highest level of your experience with regulations and policy? Well, the highest level one is this one here. I've interpreted and applied environmental regulations and policy in the course of my experience. Well, you might think, well, I'm just getting my degree. I haven't really applied environmental regulations. But then think about your dissertation or your projects where you looked up the environmental policies and regulations and you applied it to a project or a paper. That's it. I interpreted it. I applied it in my paper and project. That's the answer.
Okay, so we have another question here. What is your opinion on the statement, First-time hires are typically hired at the lowest GS level, or similarly, I've seen this several times on posting.
Not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, I think if I was going to guess, so for example, like I often see positions that are say GS9 to GS13. And so that means they're accepting people at all, like all the different levels. But
Yeah.
you know, that if you're a first time hire and if it's in a range from 9 to 13, you will only be considered for a 9 if you're a first time.
Probably so. If you're first time master's degree, 9. But if you have a PhD, they'll consider you for the 11. But you have to read the qualifications in the announcement, and this questionnaire has to be answered at the highest level. So if you have a PhD and then 3 years of experience, that could get you to start at the 12. So you don't always have to take the lowest level of the series of the grades that they offer you. But this questionnaire, if you don't answer this questionnaire at the highest level and try to get close to 100, let me interpret this one for you. Communicate with a variety of people to explain regulatory requirements and scientific technical processes and procedures. Well, okay, so you all haven't really worked anywhere. You're working on your PhD. But okay, it says here, essential part of my work, or I perform this routinely, and I've trained other people in this task, and other people have asked me for help. So let's say you collected a lot of data and you use SPSS or you use R or you use some fancy software and you interpreted the data and you worked with a team and you helped the team members with the data collection and the analysis. That's the highest level. Right there.
Okay, so another question here. If you can qualify by experience or education and meet both, but the questionnaire only allows you to select one, is there typically a best choice? This is from Dan.
Yeah, a lot of jobs don't require a degree. All the 301 jobs, administrative jobs, even Intel, a lot of IT jobs don't require a degree. So the best one would be 1 year specialized experience because the job doesn't require a degree. Now, all the jobs for you, scientists, people in the class here, a degree is required for most of the jobs that you're going to apply for because you're going to stick with science. So the best answer then for you all would be both, the combination. But let's say you don't have the specialized experience, you just have the degree. You could just say, I have the PhD in this work. You can say that, it's fine. Better though would be the combination of degree and 1 year specialized experience. But just make sure you check off whatever is right for you. They do have the or in there. They say education or 1 year experience or 3 year experience, like we just saw a minute ago. It said 3 years or both. Check off whichever one works for you.
Okay. Okay, we have another question. In 2018-19, I received a Boren Scholarship and therefore have a federal service requirement to fulfill. Satisfying this requirement includes working for a federal agency, receiving a federal fellowship, or participating in pathways positions. My questions are related to how to display this experience contract on a resume and what keywords to search for on the Usajobs website when applying to federal related opportunities that fulfill such service requirements.
But you could always use a cover letter to go along with your application to explain what you're trying to do. I think you might need a cover letter for all that. You know, a lot of let's do a search for pathways. Hold on a second. Let's do a search for pathways positions because that's an internship. You definitely need to get a federal job to pay back your time. So this is really serious for you. Okay, so here's the pathways announcements right here, 128 of them. Okay, let's go for the
Yeah, maybe you can spend a moment explaining what pathways is because I expect most people don't know that.
It's an internship program with the government, and there's two of them. One is a recent graduate, and the other is a current student trainee. So there's both. You can just search for the word pathways, and there they are. Pathways, you would begin, let's say you begin here, HHS, recent graduate. a GS5 to a 9. It says you have to be, oh, this one is current students enrolled. It says recent grad. So the good thing about pathways is you can get the job. It tells you later, look, they're hiring a bunch of people. Wow. Oh, no wonder they're trying to track COVID. This is a good job. Health information technology, that would be interesting. Oh, look at that. 4 different jobs within the same thing. Wow, that's a good announcement. Let me see the dates. Wait. Oh, yeah, they got it open for a while. Okay, I wanted to tell you about pathways. Hold on. So it'll describe it right here. Okay, GPA, you got to have a good GPA. So you have to have completed qualifying associate's bachelor's or a veteran 4 years. So that's it right there. And then you do a certain number of hours as a pathway student, and then they can convert you to permanent. So you should look for pathways jobs just to see what would be out there for pathways, because they're all recent grads. Now, let's see if this one is a direct hire position. This certainly, look, it's accepted. It should be direct hire. That means they're hiring faster, because this announcement is a very important one. And you can start as a GS9. Look, see, this is a 5 to 9. If you're master's level, you don't have to start at a 5. You can come in as a 9. Look at this. This is wrong. The announcement here says current students enrolled and accredited. That information there is actually wrong. What's right is down here, where it says you have to be a current graduate. Let me show you another one.
Okay. Yes, we only have about 8 minutes left and a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, if a job only requests a resume, should you still submit a cover letter?
No.
No. This person was looking at a question on the that from the previous section on the questionnaire, and it was asking about writing experience. And then she says, "I realized I could select multiple answers. For example, one answer was I have taken technical writing course, and another was I have written a technical report. I think a lot of us has done both or multiple of these. Can we select multiple answers, or should we try to figure out the highest ranking option?"
No, that question was check all that apply.
Okay.
That one that you're reading, I saw that. It's check all that apply. So you would check off all of them that are relevant for you. Just check them all off. But then make sure, if writing is a really big competency for the job, that you cover writing in your resume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so any general tips or opinions on applying to FEMA?
Yeah, sure. Let's look for FEMA. Yeah, one thing that FEMA loves with their resumes is they love FEMA examples. So here's a environmental protection. Maybe this is the intermittent. Let's look at this one here. This is they like to see examples. This closes at 100 resumes. It will probably close before February 10. If you ever see this, don't wait till the closing date. You'll be lost. So let me show you the qualifications here. If you can give examples of emergencies that you've been involved in, or papers, projects that have been involved with assisting with developing, preparing emergency management procedures or plans, if you were to add some examples, like the samples in the book all have specific courses, papers, projects for work. FEMA really loves examples. This one's good. Look, supporting projects and outreach programs with internal stakeholders. So anything you could add, project management tools, I know you have that. If you're working on a PhD, you got that. Okay. These are good right here.
Okay. So let me ask, we just have a few minutes left, and I want to make sure we cover a few things. So these will be sort of our last 2 questions here. So how does direct hire work? I've been told by some managers that due to the pandemic this year, I can send them my resume rather than going through Usajobs. Can you explain this process?
I can. There's a law called post-secondary direct hire authority for post-secondary students. And that is where they can hire you directly. If you know a manager or an HR person, or if you go to a job fair for your school and FEMA comes to the job fair and they're hiring people with your background, they could hire you on the spot using that DHA, that direct hire authority for students and post-secondary students. They can, but you should do both. You should apply for jobs on Usajobs, do the traditional method. But if you know somebody that works at FEMA or HHS or FDA, a manager or an HR person, and I have the post-secondary, you can Google post-secondary hire authority. You can Google it. It's a law that they can hire you directly. But the only time I've really seen it used is at a job fair where recruiters come to the job fair and they have positions that are of interest and they can hire you on the spot without Usajobs. They can.
Okay, so this, I think I know that's just, but this is from Samantha. She says, sorry if I missed this, but how many years experience can we count for a PhD? I'm finishing up with 6 years working at approximately 60 hours a week.
Oh my.
I told you that's very typical for a PhD. Yes. So you probably count all 6 years, right?
I would say make it a job block and say 40 hours a week. They're not interested in 60 or 80 hours a week. Just say 40 hours a week, 6 years. But you better write up that PhD program, courses, papers, projects, PhD, postdoc. Write it to demonstrate what you've been doing for 6 years. You got to write it down. Mm-hmm. But I would go ahead and say 6 years. I mean, you've been doing it 60 hours a week. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I just like to sort of end up with two things, which is for you to talk about what it is that you do at your agency. So if somebody wants to come to you for help or someone on your staff, how that works. And then I'd also like to make sure I cover a little bit of other things on my side. So go ahead.
Okay, well, this is my website, resume-place.com. And we write resumes for people. We coach people on their resumes. I write blogs. I do training for the government. I publish books on the topic for everybody. And I have a train the trainer program, career counselors take my class. I teach them what I know. And we write resumes for people and I write a blog. So this is all that we do here at Resume Place. Oh, I wanted to show you the presidential appointee thing really quickly. Wait a minute. Don't go anywhere. Just we do consulting for appointee resumes and cover letters. But here's the website, the Biden website. And what you do is you just go here. It's Build Back Better. And so they changed the URL. You just fill this in and you check out, put your resume there and you choose what function you're interested in there. And you choose what policy areas you're interested in. And then you choose your agency you want to work for and you submit. That's how you do it. And they do hire people that are not 30-year senior people. They do hire some people who are new grads. So you can do it.
Yeah.
Don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. But you know, you can do it. You need a cover letter and a resume to do it. On my website, if you go to my website, sign up for my mailing list if you want. I write a lot of good blogs about resume writing and keywords and top tips and whatever you can dream of. I write a lot of blogs and you can read them. Also, this page here, resources, I have on this page the GS salary schedule. I've got an accomplishment builder over here. I've got a sample of all kinds of stuff on this page. And you can sign up for my newsletter. So what I do, if I consult with you on your resume, if you want to hire me to consult, I charge $190 for an hour to look at your resume, your announcement, tell you what I think. Very good service. And then if you want help with writing, I have writers that work for me. We write resumes. So we do more than just train. I train, coach, talk. I do interview prep, everything. You name it.
Great. And most of the time, like if somebody wants to work with you on their resume at the 194, can you usually do it within that 1 hour time period, or does it take longer?
The 1 hour is consult. We talk, we look at the announcement, look at the keywords. The writing for a GS 11 is 175 an hour. We charge by the hour. Writing is separate.
Okay.
You know, most of the time for my new grads, we don't write resumes for new graduates. We say, get the book. Use the sample. Let me review. It might be 2 hours of consulting. We probably do not need to write your resume with the samples.
Yeah, I think the samples is definitely sort of a good start. And
I think so.
And having, like I said, having applied for federal stuff myself, I know the one thing I will just give as a warning to everybody, it takes a long time. And so make sure like you set aside like at least a weekend or so to do it. It's not one of these things that you can have it ready to go, because every single job is individual because of all for the keywords and everything else. And then another thing to do is to kind of keep, if you're going to apply to multiple federal jobs, sort of keep really good records so that you can use bits and pieces of text from your previous version for the next version. So it's something to sort of, spend, just be prepared about it.
I hope that you'll get the book. I hope you get the book. You can order a PDF of the book, or you can order a print book if you want. The book and the samples are invaluable for helping you.
Yeah, so I think the actual book, because this is deceiving, I think, because it says $10 to $1,000, but just for the book itself, I don't think it's that expensive, right? How much is
$10? Yeah,
$10. Yes, it's only $10 for the book. Yeah, because I went and I looked at it. It says $10 for the ebook, so you guys can afford the $10. But
yeah, you can.
Yeah, but it's a bit scary when trying to look at the other things. But I would agree that your website, though, also has a lot of resources. And so I think that's really good to use. I just want to make a few announcements. So somebody has already asked, will there be a copy of today's recording? And the answer is yes. The recordings from this this webinar plus the past webinars are on my YouTube channel, which is on Science Technology Policy Academy. So it'll go up there as soon as I edit it, probably tomorrow, if unless something disastrous happens. And we did, just as a reminder, last month's webinar was on fellowships, including some federal fellowships like the Presidential Management Fellowship and things like that, which some of you qualify for. And the previous webinar before that talked about presidential transitions and talked about like the new administration. And as somebody who worked at the beginning of the Obama administration, I can say definitely new people do get hired, but it's like it's really important to look for those internships like OSTP, the White House Office of Science Technology Policy. Well, you need to apply now for the summer internships that they will have available. And I'm sure that, particularly now that we have a science advisor identified, which is really nice, a cabinet level position for the first time. We hired probably at least, maybe 15 or 20 people. Summer is most competitive. It's a year-round thing. You can only stay a limit of 90 days for those. So make sure that I'm sure the OSTP website will be up to date, but if you go back and look at some of those webinars, you'll also find more. Lastly, this webinar was suggested by a student. So if you have an idea for a webinar that you'd like to have, please go ahead and type it in the chat as I'm speaking, or send me an email for your current student. You can also send something through Slack so I can plan our March webinar. And also, you should have also received a newsletter where I just opened up my own classes. We have the next class coming up is on program evaluation. That's a new class, which is not inexpensive because it's a pilot class. And then also the other classes we have on policy analysis, and then on analytical things like benefit cost analysis and so forth. And as you can see, those might well help in a federal resume if they're looking for those kinds of skills. So you can say you took a class on the topic. So with that, please type into chat. Thanks for our speaker for all her questions. And
Thank you.
like you probably answered far more questions than any other speaker that we've had,
Thank
which I'm
you.
sure is greatly appreciated because it's a very hard world out there and trying to
Yeah.
get a federal job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we wish you and everybody else a good evening.